Welcome back to our verse-by-verse journey through the book of Proverbs. I'm Pastor Lance, and this is episode 5, where we work our way through all of chapter 4. In our previous studies, we've been introduced to the overall framework that Solomon is building. Fathers pouring wisdom into a son, using the most intimate and urgent language that a parent can muster. In chapter 4, the urgency intensifies. Now Solomon doesn't just relay his own wisdom, he reaches back a generation and he quotes his own father, King David, which lends the whole chapter the weight of multi-generational legacy. This is what wisdom does. It compounds across time. It doesn't die with the person who discovered it. It gets handed down, refined, and passed on. So let's dig in. In verse 1 we read, "Hear, my children, the instruction of a father, and give attention to know understanding. For I give you good doctrine, do not forsake my law. When I was my father's son, tender and the only one in the sight of my mother, he also taught me and said to me," let's stop verse 4 right there. Take note of the plural here in verse 1, my children. Solomon broadens his address here. He's not speaking to just one son in this opening. This is almost certainly something this kind of literature included in that time. You see, our book of Proverbs was part of a genre of literature of that time and that region. It reflects the literary custom of a royal wisdom teacher addressing multiple disciples, much like a scribal school in the ancient Near East. One of the ways that the majesty of Solomon was communicated to his peers in other lands was in his reputation, not just for wealth and military strength, but for his wisdom. When the Queen of Sheba visited, she says that she came to see if the rumors that she had heard back in her land about Solomon's wisdom were exaggerations or were legit. As she prepared to return home, she admitted that the rumors didn't reach the half of the truth of the whole. The Hebrew word for instruction in verse 1 is musar. It's a rich word. It's worth unpacking. Musar carries the idea of discipline, of correction, moral formation. It's not the soft therapeutic instruction of modern parenting. No, it's the kind of instruction that shapes character through both word and consequence. The root is related to the word for bonds or chastening. Real instruction leaves a mark, not so much on the body as on the soul. When in verse 2 Solomon says, "I give you good doctrine," it's the idea of something absorbed, internalized, not just heard. Solomon is saying, what I'm about to give you is worth taking all the way in, all the way to the very core of who and what you are. And then comes the pivot in verse 3. Solomon goes autobiographical. He remembers being young, tender, the apple of his mother's eye. The reference, of course, is to Bathsheba, who fought fiercely for Solomon's place on the throne. You recall the palace drama in 1 Kings chapter 1, when Adonijah tried to seize power. Bathsheba interceded and Solomon became king. She was devoted to him, and apparently so was David. Now Solomon quotes his father David. We read in the last part of verse 4, "Let your heart retain my words, keep my commands, and live. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will preserve you. Love her, and she will keep you." Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. Exalt her, and she will promote you. She will bring you honor when you embrace her. She will place on your head an ornament of grace, a crown of glory she will deliver to you. This is simply an amazing window into the thinking of Israel's greatest king. Here's David, the warrior poet, the giant killer, the man after God's own heart. And what does he pour into his son? It's not military strategy. It's not political cunning. It's not the art of alliance making. It's wisdom. David earned his perspective the hard way. He'd watched King Saul self-destruct, a man of enormous natural gifts who lacked the wisdom to govern himself. Saul's story is a cautionary tale about talent without wisdom, about power without character. David saw it up close and he never forgot the lesson. He also made his own catastrophic choices, as we know. The Bathsheba affair and utterly shameful murder of her husband. The years of family chaos that followed, all of it the fruit of moments when desire outran wisdom. When David tells Solomon, "Get wisdom," he's speaking from the scarred memory of a man who learned the cost of not having it. Note the command structure that we find here. Get wisdom, get understanding. In Hebrew, these are urgent imperatives. It was the feel of a shout. It's David shaking his son by the shoulders because what he says isn't just a nice idea, it's a matter of survival. The word translated as wisdom here is chokhmah, the great word of Proverbs. As I shared in a previous episode, in its early use, it referred to skill, the expertise of a craftsman, the competence of artisans. When Bezalel was described as being filled with wisdom to build the tabernacle in Exodus 31, it's this same word. Wisdom isn't theoretical, and it certainly isn't the banter of effete academics whose heaviest work is to lift a 400-page book. Biblical wisdom is the practical mastery of reality as God designed it. The word translated understanding is a companion word to wisdom. It carries the idea of discernment, the ability to distinguish between things, to separate what matters from what doesn't. Together, wisdom and understanding form a complete picture. It's the skill to navigate life well, combined with the clarity to see what's actually happening. David's counsel to Solomon was also recorded in 1 Chronicles 28 and 29, where David charged Solomon publicly to, quote, be strong and courageous, and to seek God. Here in Proverbs 4, we get the private version, the father-to-son moment, the pillow talk of kings. Verses 10 through 13, hear, my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of your life will be many. I have taught you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in the right paths. When you walk, your steps will not be hindered, and when you run, you will not stumble. Take firm hold of instruction. Do not let go. Keep her, for she is your life. Verse 11 catches me every time I read it. Solomon says, I have taught you. I have led you in right paths. Now, when did he do this? Because we know the arc of Solomon's story. He started brilliantly. His prayer for wisdom in 1 Kings 3 is one of the most luminous moments in Scripture. But then came the drift, the accumulation of foreign wives in violation of the law, the temples built for false gods on the Mount of Olives, the slow, painful departure from the God who had appeared to him not once but twice. This means either Solomon wrote Proverbs early in his reign, before the rot had set in, or, and this is the more hopeful reading, he wrote this in the autumn of his life, after the repentance reflected in Ecclesiastes. The preacher who cried, vanity of vanities, may be the same Solomon who returned, chastened, to the God of his father. If so, these words to his son carry the ache of a man who taught wisdom but failed to fully live it himself, and he knew it. Either way, the counsel is sound. Verse 13, in particular, is arresting. He says, take firm hold of instruction. Do not let go. Keep her, for she is your life. The Hebrew word translated take firm hold means to be strong, to seize, to grip tightly. It's used of soldiers who hold a position and of those who take courage. This is not a gentle suggestion. This is a command to grab wisdom the way a drowning man grabs a rope. Verse 14, do not enter the path of the wicked and do not walk in the way of evil. Avoid it. Don't travel on it. Turn away from it and pass on. For they do not sleep unless they have done evil, and their sleep is taken away unless they make someone fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. Solomon describes people addicted to harm. They can't rest unless they've done damage. Their diet is wickedness. Their drink is violence. This is not hyperbole. This is the psychology of evil as an ancient observation recorded it. Modern criminology and psychology confirm something that Solomon knew. Evil has momentum. Unchecked sin doesn't stabilize at just some comfortable level of badness. It always escalates. The person who starts by cutting corners at work eventually defrauds clients. The man who indulges a small lie finds himself constructing entire alternative realities. The Apostle Paul describes this dynamic in Romans 1, a progressive darkening, a handing over to increasingly destructive desires. Note also the geographical metaphor that Solomon uses throughout this passage: paths, ways, roads. This is a profoundly Hebrew way of thinking. Life is a journey. And the question is not whether you're moving, but which direction. Ancient Israel's roads were not the well-engineered Roman highways that would come centuries later. They were footpaths worn into the soil by generations of travelers. If you walked a wrong path long enough, you could end up hopelessly lost in the Judean wilderness. Solomon's advice is sharp. Don't even start down the wrong road. Don't enter it. Avoid it. Turn away from it. Verse 18, but the path of the just is like the shining sun that shines ever brighter until the perfect day. The way of the wicked is like darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. This is one of the most beautiful couplets in the entire book. Two images, perfectly contrasted. The path of the just is like the noga, a word that can mean brightness or gleaming, dawn light. It's the light just before sunrise, that particular quality of illumination when everything is just becoming visible. Solomon says this light doesn't peak and fade. It grows. It shines ever brighter, like the full arc of a day, building to midday brilliance. This is that cumulative effect of wisdom that I mentioned earlier. Decisions made wisely don't just benefit the moment, they compound. Good character opens doors that remain closed to those without it. Integrity, lived out over decades, builds a kind of trust and reputation that nothing else can manufacture. A life built on wisdom grows more luminous with time. In contrast to that, the wicked are in darkness so complete they don't even know what they're tripping over. It's the spiritual equivalent of stumbling around in a pitch black room. They're being injured by their own choices, but the darkness has robbed them of the ability to see the problem. There's a poignant application here. I've sat with people over many years of ministry who've made a wreck of their lives. They can't seem to identify the source of their suffering. The connection between their moral choices and their circumstances is invisible to them. That's the darkness that Solomon is describing here. I'll ask them, can't you see how this disaster is because of this or that choice that you made back there? The blank look tells it all. They really do not see how they are reaping what they have sown. Or maybe they do, but they're so used to identifying themselves as a victim, they're unable to see that they are the perpetrator of their own distress, and maybe unwillingly to see it is a better word. Verse 20, my son, give attention to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Do not let them depart from your ears. Keep them in the midst of your heart, for they are life to those who find them and health to all their flesh. And then the central verse of the chapter, and maybe for the entire book of Proverbs, verse 23, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. That word keep here is natsar. It means to guard, to watch, to preserve. It's a word used of sentinels and watchmen. Solomon is saying, your heart is a fortress. Post a guard at the gate. The word translated issues, it's a fascinating word. In military context, it was used to describe exits or escape routes from a city. In a geographical context, it referred to the outflow of rivers. The heart, Solomon says, is the source from which everything else flows. Your words, your choices, your relationships, your character, all of it flows from that interior source. Jesus said nearly the same thing in Mark chapter 7. He said, from within, out of the heart of man come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, coveting, wickedness, deceit. The ancients did not think of the heart as just the seat of emotion, as most Western cultures tend to. In Hebrew anthropology, the leb, the heart, was the integrated center of the whole person. It was their thought, will, emotion, their moral disposition, all of it together. Guarding the heart meant guarding everything about who and what you are. The old Cherokee story about the two wolves, I think, is as useful here as an illustration. The wolf that wins is the one you feed. But I'd push it further. Wisdom doesn't just help you feed the right wolf, it renovates the den. It changes the interior architecture of a person through long exposure to truth, through discipline, through meditation and prayer and community. Verse 24, put away from you a deceitful mouth and put perverse lips far from you. Solomon now addresses the heart's first and most visible or obvious outlet, our speech. This isn't coincidental. The sequence is intentional. A changed heart will eventually produce changed speech. But changed speech can also reinforce a changed heart. The connection runs both directions. The word for deceitful mouth in Hebrew means crooked or twisted, the opposite of straight. And the word for perverse lips carries the idea of deviation, swerving from the right path. Both words describe speech that doesn't go straight. It bends away from truth. In the ancient world, a person's word was their bond. It was that in a way that modern society has largely lost. Contracts were verbal oaths. Business was transacted on reputation. To be known as someone whose speech was crooked wasn't just a moral indictment, it was a social and economic ruin. Solomon knew that. He's not just giving spiritual advice here, he's giving practical counsel for navigating a world where what you say determines who you are. Verse 25, let your eyes look straight ahead and your eyelids look right before you. Ponder the path of your feet and let all of your ways be established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Remove your foot from evil. Solomon closes the chapter with a call to focus. Two senses are used, sight and motion, and both are disciplined toward the same goal. Let your eyes look straight ahead, he says. That's in a world saturated with visual temptation. That's not just old-fashioned advice. The discipline of the eyes is as urgent today as it was in Solomon's Jerusalem, perhaps more so. The average person in 2026 is bombarded with more images in a single day than someone in Solomon's era would encounter in a lifetime. The call to keep your eyes forward, to resist the reflexive dart of the gaze towards whatever entices, is a discipline worthy of cultivating with intention. The phrase, ponder the path of your feet, means to weigh carefully, to level, to make even. It's the image of a surveyor examining a road before construction. Hey, before you walk, survey. Before you decide, assess. Where does this choice lead? What's the trajectory of this path that I am choosing? Solomon returns to the ancient wisdom of directionality. Today is built by the choices made yesterday, and tomorrow is shaped by what we decide today. The decades accumulate, and before you know it, the path that you half-consciously chose in your 20s has delivered you somewhere in your 60s. And you either marvel at where wisdom has led you, or you mourn where folly took you. Do not turn, he says, to the right or the left. That echoes Moses' words in Deuteronomy 5 and Joshua 1, language used of covenant fidelity, of staying on the road that God marked out. For Solomon, wisdom and covenant faithfulness are the same journey. To seek wisdom is to walk with God. Chapter 4 of Proverbs is a portrait of legacy in motion. We've watched wisdom pass from David to Solomon and then to Solomon's son. 3 generations, each one handing off what matters most. Not a throne, not a treasury, not a military alliance, wisdom. The central image of the chapter is the path, the road you walk, the direction you're heading, the destination you're building towards one step at a time. The path of the just gets brighter, the way of the wicked grows dark, and the heart is where it all begins. So keep your heart. Guard the gate. Feed the right desires. Post a watchman at the door of your lips. Keep your eyes forward and ponder where your feet are going. Because out of the heart spring the issues of life, every one of them. All right, we're going to pick it up at chapter 5 next time when Solomon moves from the general call to wisdom to some specific warnings. And I would encourage you, don't miss it. Until then, stay on the path.